Welcome to Make Sylacauga Healthy Again. I'm your host, Dr. Jonathan Douglas of Broadway Spinal Care. If you hung around with us in the clinic for a week, you would see something kind of interesting, and we've been in practice for over 20 years, and you can never predict it, but every week has a theme. And again, you don't know at the start of the week, you just kind of get prepared for whatever it might be. But this week's theme was kids' health. We saw so many babies and so many kids, and I was thinking, I get the same questions from parents over and over and over again. So I just talked to parents this week and I said, what would you like for me to do a show on? And they gave me some topics. So we're going to try very hard in 10 minutes to sum up 20 years of what we talked to with parents and to tell you successes that others have seen and how you can be successful. And it all comes down to what you would do if you have a pebble in your shoe. Stay tuned. So the first topic that I had parents ask me to discuss is ADHD. And you might be surprised to think in a chiropractic office that that's something we talk about, but we talk about ADHD every single day. For 20 years, I've talked to parents about it, and ADHD is about 90% a diet issue. I'm going to say that one more time. ADHD is about 90% a diet issue, and I can tell you that I might not have believed that when we first started in practice, but I've literally seen kids come in for 20 years now, and the parents that fix their diet fix their ADHD the vast majority of the time. And so we got a little graphic that shows something that I think you need to think about a lot, and if you don't understand this, you need to understand it. 90% of the grocery store is poison, and it's especially poison to kids who have a brain that works differently. So all those things right there, if you feed your child that and they have a brain that tends to go toward being hyperactive and have an attention deficit, then it is going to feed that and it's going to make it worse. Okay? I'm telling you, 90% of the stuff in the grocery store is going to make them sick. And so we talk about it all week long. Parents come in, they want to discuss it. I just saved you a visit. If you want to fix a child's ADHD, 90% of that is diet. Look at what they're eating, and you will not be shocked because you know what they're eating, and you also know it's not real food, and you also know it's poison. So why do we go and do something like give them a drug when we haven't tried every other option that's conservative? And that's where we come to the pebble in the shoe, and we talk to people about this in the office all the time. So people, for some reason, if you get a rock in your shoe, everybody knows that you're going to pull that rock out of that shoe. And if you have a child who has a rock in their shoe, everybody knows the first step is you're going to pull that rock out of that shoe. But instead of doing that with, let's take that to the ADHD or any other disease, instead of fixing the rock, people want to take something like Advil. So if somebody's walking around limping and you say, why are you limping? You say, I've got a big rock in my shoe. And they say, well, why don't you take it out? And like, no, I'm just going to take some Advil for it and see if I can get the pain to go away. You'd say that person's crazy. They would be crazy. It's so simple to take a pebble out of a shoe. It's so simple to not eat junk. But it's really hard also because kids get exposed to it early, they become addicted to it. But that's one of the jobs of parenting is you have to create these boundaries and you have to be the person who makes the big adult decisions. And so if you have a child who's struggling, then you need to think about their diet and what are they eating and why are they eating it, and are they going to pitch a fit? Who cares? Are they going to pitch a fit over their pebble in their shoe? You're still going to take it out. So let's think about that. 90% of the stuff in the grocery store is poison. I've got lots of shows where we've talked about that. Just start reading labels. But ADHD, you can probably fix yourself, and you can probably fix it pretty rapidly, and you're going to have some fights in the beginning. But again, this is what we've talked to parents about for 20 years. I have seen kids that were so bad they couldn't even stay in school that become model students and are doing amazing. So look at the diet first. Do not look at the meds first, because I tell you, that's a path you do not want to go down. If you got the pebble in the shoe, taking Advil is never, ever going to fix it. It's just not. And that gets us to generally weight issues with children, and we see a lot of kids who are having weight issues. So that's our next graphic. And this is pretty simple, but if you want to build a body that's made out of the right building blocks, you want to eat meats, vegetables, healthy fruits. If you want to build a body that is overweight and does not function correctly, then you build it out of hamburgers and sodas and breads and whatever else stuff, that French fries and all that stuff. That graphic right there basically sums up the entire Make America Healthy Again movement, is that it's just that simple. So when you look at weight issues with kids, it's very rarely anything other than that person that you see that's eating the hamburgers and the sodas. And then does that tie right back into the ADHD? It absolutely does. Those kids have a brain that's not functioning correctly. They might not show up as having ADHD. They might show up with all kinds of other problems. But a child that's carrying extra weight is eating the wrong things for them, I promise you. And if you start going back to the 90% of things are poison, and you start thinking about that graphic of showing meats and vegetables and healthy fruits and what they should be eating, then you solve most of their problems. And if a child is eating the right things, they do not carry extra weight. I'm going to say that again. If a child is eating the right things, they do not carry extra weight. People are not different than other people. And so you say, well, my child's a little bit bigger boned or whatever else. I mean, that might be true, but when you actually look at the x-rays of a child who's heavy versus not, they really don't have bigger bones. They actually are just consuming way too many calories, and they're consuming things that inflame them, and they make them blow up like that and hold on to this extra weight, which leads to hormone problems and all kinds of other things. But that ties directly into the next thing we talk to parents about a lot, which is formula for babies. And you would not believe how many times a day we talk about formula for babies, because formula is pure, utter garbage. 90% of it is. I'm going to keep going back to 90% today, but 90% is. This is the only formula. It's goat milk formula. This is amazing. Kindamil is something that is actually very much like breast milk, and kids do great with it, and they don't have any issues. If you buy regular old formula, I don't even know the names. Doesn't matter. We talk about them in the office. I don't discuss the names of the others because it's not something you want. Enfamil, I think is one of them. But Kindamil is the one that does not have corn syrup solids in it and does not have soy. Soy and corn are the primary inflammation drivers of anything you have inflammatory in your body. And if you start exposing a baby to that, then you get them programmed to look for corn, soy as something that they eat. And when they look for that, they end up being the kids that really want those Doritos and Pop-Tarts or Snickers, all those kind of things along the way. And it becomes a much harder fight. And if you want to look to that, we did a show a few weeks ago on raising a healthy child from the beginning. And we had a grandmother and then a mother come in and talk about how that can happen. If you just don't expose a child to junk, then they never get addicted to that junk. So it kind of comes down to that. The rest of the time we talk to children, it's about colic. We see a lot of kids with colic. If they're not sleeping, then it's usually a spinal problem, and that could be a whole other show. We also see a lot of kids for digestive issues. Digestive issues can be a spinal problem we usually can fix in a week or two, but it mostly comes down to talking to them about a combination of diet and then exercise. And I sound like a broken record, but that's really what it is. If you eat junk and you're holding on to extra weight, then you're eating things that make you sick, and you know that, and you got a pebble in your shoe. Why don't you just take the pebble out of your shoe? Got one more graphic to show you. I'm talking to my pickleball kids about this today. First, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. So it's very hard for adults, and I don't know that I necessarily understand that, but I've seen it my entire career that adults just don't make different decisions usually. Some of them do. It's very rare to get someone to really change things as an adult. But boy, even if you're an adult who doesn't make great decisions, if you can just take your child and make sure you're making the best decisions you possibly can for them, you're really setting them up for a lifetime of health that it will be totally different than what you might have been exposed to. Please think about that. These are the things we see all the time. That's 20 years of what we've talked to people about, and it's actually possible. It takes a little bit of work, but everything that's worthwhile takes a little bit of work. We'll see you next time.